Good morning, friends. Welcome to the fifth lecture of functional analysis. In the last lecture, we have seen the important notion of quotient norm spaces and how to prove that quotient norm space itself as a Banach space. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss the properties regarding continuous linear transformation. Let me share my screen. Yes. Initially, we will try to understand the concept definition of continuous linear transformation. Then we will look about some important theorems and examples which are dependent on continuous linear transformation. Actually, in this topic, we are going to understand the properties of the linear transformations regarding continuity and boundedness. Let us start with the presentation. First, we will try to understand basic definitions, then important theorems and examples. Let us go for the definition. The given transformation T is said to be continuous linear for n and n dash to be the norm linear spaces with the same scalars. That is, those are defined over the same field capital F. Okay. For these two norm linear spaces, the mapping TBA mapping from n to n dash is said to be linear if T of alpha x plus y is alpha x plus T of y for all x, y in and alpha in F. Next, continuous transformation. Let n and n dash be the norm linear spaces with the same scalars. TBA mapping from n into n dash is said to be, then T is said to be continuous at a point x naught if for every epsilon greater than 0, there exists a positive constant delta greater than 0 such that norm of x minus x naught is less than delta, which implies norm of tx minus tx naught is less than epsilon. For every such epsilon with this norm less than epsilon, there exists delta greater than 0 for x minus x naught is less than delta. That is, a simple way to understand this definition is, as the 2 points x minus x and x naught are coming closer, the corresponding t images tx and tx naught must come closer. Okay. In other words, we can tell the definition as, if there exists a sequence xn in n such that xn tends to x as n tends to infinity, then txn tends to t of x as n tends to infinity. Next, continuous transformation we have studied. We will go to a next definition. N to T is a mapping from n to n dash is said to be continuous on the whole domain capital N if T is continuous at each point of the domain, at each x in N. Similarly, T is called as continuous linear transformation if T is both continuous as well as linear. Next, bounded linear transformation. If T is a linear transformation from a norm linear space N norm into a norm linear space n dash equipped with norm dash, and if there exists a real number k greater or equal by 0 such that norm dash of T of x is less than or equals to k into norm of x for every x in N, then K is called bound for T such T is called as bounded linear transformation. Look at this inequality. This inequality is important. Norm dash. Norm dash is the norm acting on the codomain of a mapping T. Norm is a norm acting on the domain of a T. Therefore, norm dash of T of x is less than or equals to k into norm of x is the condition given for the transformation T to be bounded. And whenever such a k is going to exist, that k is called as bound for T. Next, we will see that theorem. Let n and n dash be the norm linear spaces. T is linear transformation of n into n dash. Then we want to prove that T is continuous on n if and only if T is continuous at any point of n. Basically, the definition says that T is continuous on capital N if and only if T is continuous at each point x in n. But here we want to prove that it is continuous at any point of n, and this is the first property of the mapping T is linear transformation, right? Let us prove the result. In the first result, we will prove a first part, only if part, assuming T is linear transformation of n into n dash and T is continuous on the whole domain. If t is continuous on whole domain, what should we prove? T is continuous at any point of n. But what the definition tells us, if t is continuous on whole domain, t must be continuous at every point of n. And if t is continuous at every point of n, we can say that t is continuous at any point of n. Let us go proving the result in a converse way. That is, assuming t is continuous at any point, we will prove t is continuous on whole domain. Assuming t is continuous at any point, say x naught of n, and we want to prove that t is continuous on the whole domain. Okay, now to prove t is continuous on whole domain, and what should we prove? T is continuous at every point of the domain. That is, to prove this result, we will try to prove that t is continuous at an arbitrary point x in n. Therefore, here we will try to prove it is an arbitrary continuous at an arbitrary point x in n. Now, to prove t is continuous at an arbitrary point x in n, what we will try to prove? We will assume one sequence, rather a convergent sequence, that is xn is tending to x, and we will try to prove txn tends to tx. Okay. Therefore, let there exist a sequence xn in n such that xn tends to x as n tends to infinity. As xn is tending to x as n tends to infinity, one can write xn minus x tends to 0 as n tends to infinity. That is, here as x is a fixed scalar, we will subtract the scalar from every sequence point. Okay. Similarly, let us do the same operation by adding a fixed scalar x naught. Therefore, one can say xn minus x plus x naught tends to x naught at n tends to infinity. But what is the assumption? T is continuous at any point, say x naught. Therefore, here we have obtained a sequence xn minus x plus x naught, which tends to x naught. Therefore, as t is continuous, one can say t image of this sequence converges to t image of x naught. Here, therefore, we have written t image of xn minus x plus x naught tends to t of x naught as n tends to infinity. But one more property we have in our hand, that t is a linear mapping. Therefore, using linearity here, how we can separate these? We can separate t over the three terms. Therefore, separating t over the three terms, txn minus tx plus tx naught tends to t of x naught as n tends to infinity. Again, as x naught is a fixed scalar, tx naught will be a fixed vector. Therefore, txn minus tx will tends to 0, removing the scalar. Similarly, txn minus tx tends to 0 will imply txn tends to tx as n tends to infinity. Hence, we have started with xn tends to x, and we have proved that txn tends to tx as n tends to infinity. Therefore, t is continuous at an arbitrary point x in n. Therefore, one can say that t is continuous on the whole domain. Okay. Therefore, the first property we have proved that if the mapping is linear, then proving t continuous on the whole domain is now equivalent to prove t is continuous at any point of the corresponding domain. Let us have a look on the corollary of this theorem. The corollary says that let n and n dash be the nonlinear spaces. T is a linear transformation of n into n dash. Then prove that t is continuous at 0. Then t is continuous on whole domain, where 0 is the 0 vector in the vector space n. Okay. Now, actually, we have proved that if t is continuous at any point, then t is continuous on the whole domain. Now, here taking that any point to be the special vector as a 0 vector. Therefore, t is continuous at 0 vector must imply t is continuous on n. Okay. Coming to the next property of the linear transformation, let n and n dash be the nonlinear spaces, and t is a linear transformation of n into n dash. Then prove that t is continuous on the domain n if and only if t is bounded on n. Continuous implies and implies by boundedness provided the mapping t is linear. Okay, let us do the first part of this theorem, only if part, by assuming t is continuous on n, and we should prove that t is bounded on n. Right. Now, to prove t is bounded on n, we will make the contradictory assumption. What will be a contradictory assumption? T is not bounded. Okay. For t is bounded, what we know, norm t of x is less than or equals to k into norm of x. Now, as we are saying here that t is not bounded, means there exists no real number k. See, here we are written there exists no real number k greater than 0 such that non-t of x is less than or equals to k into norm of x. Means as such a k do not exist for which this inequality hold, then one can find out a vector for which the reverse part of the inequality holds. Now what is the converse of this inequality? It is strictly greater. Therefore, to a positive integer n, we can find out a vector xn such that, what such that? The reverse of the inequality, norm t of xn is strictly greater than n into norm of xn. N into norm of xn is the contradictory assumption actually. Okay. Now let us do some calculations, some algebraic operations on this inequality. Shifting n into norm of xn to the left, it gives you a next statement as 1 upon n into norm of xn into norm of t of xn is greater than 1. But we know norm of xn is a non-negative number, non-negative real number. N is a positive integer. Therefore, this is together a positive real number. Therefore, though we write it in the modulus or not, it gives us the same value. Therefore, taking or shifting this scalar into a norm, 1 upon n into norm of xn into t of xn. Okay. Therefore, this is a scalar. Now, absorbing this scalar in the t function, because t is linear. Therefore, we can write the next step as t of xn upon n into norm of xn strictly greater than 1 for xn not equals to 0 surely. Okay. Therefore, the inequality we have obtained is norm of t of xn upon n into norm of xn is greater than 1. At this stage, whatever is this bracketed vector, we will define this vector by some new vector, say yn. Therefore, here I have defined yn as xn upon n into norm of xn. Then what is the norm value of this vector yn? The norm value of the vector yn is, taking the norm on the right also, norm xn upon n into, so here norm I have forgotten. This is norm of xn upon n into norm of xn. N upon norm of xn is a scalar taken out. Norm xn will cancel, and here we will left with 1 upon n. 1 upon n tends to 0 as n tends to infinity. Means whatever is this vector yn we will obtain, the norm yn will tends to 0. Therefore, the sequence yn tends to 0 as n tends to infinity. Why I am saying sequence yn tends to 0? Because norm of yn tends to 0. And we know the second property for norm function. Norm x is equals to 0 implies and implied by x is equals to 0. Therefore, if norm yn is tending to 0, yn must tends to 0. Therefore, we have a sequence yn tends to 0 as n tends to infinity. But what about the t image? If I consider knowing t is continuous, t of yn should tend to 0. But here t of yn does not tend to 0 because already we have from the previous statement, from this equation, norm of t of yn is strictly greater than 1. If it is strictly greater than 1, t of yn will not tend to 0. Hence, it will be a contradiction. The contradiction arises due to a wrong assumption we have made initially that t is not bounded. Therefore, t is not bounded is not true. Hence, the mapping t must be bounded. Okay, this over with the first part. Now, let us go for the proof in the second part with the converse assumption that t is bounded, and our aim is to prove that t is continuous on n. Okay, by the previous corollary, proving t is continuous on n, now it is sufficient for me to prove that t is continuous at 0. That is 0 vector of the given nonlinear spaces. Okay, now as t is bounded, first we'll write the definition. As t is bounded, by definition, there exists a real number k greater than 0 such that norm t of x is less than or equals to k into norm of x for all x in n. Okay. Now, to prove t is continuous at 0, what we will do? We will assume one sequence xn in n which is tending to 0, and we will try to prove txn tends to t of 0. Therefore, let us start with an assumption. There exists a sequence xn in capital N such that xn tends to 0 as n tends to infinity. Now, as xn is tending to 0, from the previous equation number from the inequality 0.1, here I am going to write this inequality true for xn in n. Because this inequality we have written true for all the vectors in n, therefore it is equally true for a vector xn in n. Therefore we have written this inequality for a vector xn, and it is true for all n. But as we have assumed that the sequence xn tends to 0, then what about norm xn? As knowing norm is a continuous function, norm xn tends to norm of 0, but norm 0 is 0. Therefore norm xn tends to 0. By combining equation 0.2 and 0.3, what can I write? Norm of t of xn tends to 0. Norm of t of xn tends to 0. T of xn tends to 0. Because norm t of xn is equal to 0, giving me t of xn is equals to 0. Therefore, we have shown that txn tends to 0 implies t of xn tends to t of 0, but t of 0 is 0 itself. Therefore, the mapping T is continuous at the origin. Knowing the mapping T is continuous at the origin, one can say that T is continuous on the whole space and by using previous theorem or the statement of a corollary. Okay. Now let us go to a next theorem. Next theorem is again the next property given for a mapping to be linear. Therefore, a statement says that n dash with the non-linear spaces, T is a linear transformation of n to n dash. Then prove that T is bounded on capital N if and only if T maps bounded sets in n into bounded sets in n dash. Let us prove the first part of this statement. First, only if part, let us assume that T is bounded. If T is bounded is my assumption, therefore there exists a real number k greater than 0, strictly greater than 0, norm T of x less than or equals to k into norm of x. What we want to prove? T maps bounded sets in n into bounded sets in n dash. Now let us start with S to be a bounded subset of n. Then it is enough for us to prove that T of S is the bounded subset of n dash. Okay. Now as S is bounded, what one can say? According to the boundedness of these sets, there exists a positive constant m greater than 0 such that norm x is less than or equals to m for all x in S. Right. Now combining both the equations, norm T of x is less than or equals to k into norm of x. This norm x is less than or equals to some positive constant capital M. Therefore, if I combine both the inequalities 0.4 and 0.5, may I get norm T of x is less than or equals to k into M for all x in S. Hence, T of S is bounded set in n dash. Let us go for the reverse part. In the reverse part, we will assume that T maps bounded sets in n into bounded sets in n dash, and our aim is to prove that the mapping T is bounded. Therefore, let us start with an assumption with one bounded set, and we will get its T image is also bounded. For this, let us consider the set S. The set S we have taken under the consideration is collection of all the vectors in the domain x in n such that norm x is less than or equals to n. Norm x is less than or equals to means we are collecting those vectors of a non-linear space n whose distance from the origin is either less or equal to 1. Means it is going to construct a unit sphere and the set will be the boundary along with its interior. Therefore, this is the closed unit sphere in the non-linear spaces. Then S is bounded set in n because I have taken this to be a bounded set, bounded by 1. Therefore, by the assumption T of S is bounded in n dash. By the assumption T of S is bounded in n dash. Now, if T of S is bounded in n dash, what we will say? There exists a real number k greater than 0 such that every norm value is less than or equals to some k. Every norm value is less than or equals to some k for all x in S. Now look at this inequality. We will discuss the two cases. What will happen if x is equal to 0 and x is not equal to 0? If x is equals to 0, then what about their T image? Knowing the mapping T is linear, T of x must be 0. Therefore, so clearly we can say that this inequality satisfies. The question is to discuss when x is not equals to 0. If x is not equals to 0 means it is not origin. The vector is not the origin. Therefore, the norm value is not equals to 0. By knowing this, let us define a vector y as x upon norm of x. As x upon norm of x. This vector is belonging to S because here also a norm sign I have forgotten. This norm of x upon norm of x is 1. Why the norm value is 1? Because if we take a norm of this vector x upon norm of x is the scalar, we can take it out of the norm. Therefore, we left with norm x upon norm x, and norm x upon norm x is 1. Okay. Therefore, as y belongs to S, what it implies that t of y belongs to t of S. But we know that t of S is bounded. Therefore, one can say norm of t of y is less than or equals to k for some k greater than 0. But what is y we have selected? This is x upon norm of x. Okay. Now we know that the mapping T is linear. Therefore, if it is linear, norm x is a scalar. Therefore, it is of the type x by alpha. Therefore, let me take 1 by alpha out of the mapping T. Therefore, here we have written T of x upon norm of x. Norm x is again a scalar. That scalar is taken out with a modulus. But here no need to write a modulus because norm x itself is a non-negative quantity. Therefore, taking this norm x outside this norm, therefore this is 1 upon norm of x is norm of t of x is less than or equals to k. Shifting this norm x on the right, it gives us norm t of x is less than or equals to k into norm of x. Hence, the function or the mapping T is bounded. Okay. This implies that norm T of x is less than or equals to k into norm of x for all x in a, and hence T is bounded. Now, whatever the 3 theorems we have proved, if we combine all the 3 theorems, then we will have a new big theorems. That is, let n and n dash be the non-linear spaces. T is linear transformation of n into n dash. Then the following conditions are equivalent. T is continuous. If first statement is T is continuous. Second is T is continuous at origin. Third is there exists a real number k greater than 0 such that norm T of x is less than or equals to k into norm of x. This condition gives us the boundedness. Fourth, if S is a closed unit sphere, then its image is bounded. That is, for a bounded set, the image is also bounded. Okay. To prove that 4 statements are equivalent, what one has to do? There are 2 ways. First, prove 1 implies 2, 2 implies 3, 3 implies 4, and 4 implies 1 is the one way to prove. Or one can prove 1 implies an implied by 2. This we have done already. T continuous. We have already proved that if mapping T is continuous, knowing it is linear, it is enough and necessary and sufficient to prove that T is continuous at any point. And if I select that point is as origin, the first is true. Second, T is continuous. This is boundedness. Already we have proved continuous is implies and implies by boundedness. And just now we have seen the last theorem, bounded. Third condition is boundedness. Now we have proved the mapping is bounded if and only if it maps bounded set, this is bounded set, into bounded sets. It maps bounded sets into bounded sets. Therefore, all the 3 theorems we have proved. Therefore, we can combine all the 3 theorems in order to say the following 4 conditions or 4 statements are equivalent. Therefore, we are not going to prove it. We are not going to repeat it again. Okay. From the above theorem, what we have? A linear transformation T is continuous if and only if it is bounded. This is the biggest characteristic of the linear transformation. Okay. Now, let us move towards the next theorem, an important theorem. Let n and n dash be the non-linear spaces. T be a linear transformation of n into n dash. If T of n is the range of T, then the inverse, T inverse exists and is continuous on its domain of definition. If and only if there exists a constant m greater than 0 such that m norm of x is less than or equals to norm of T of x. If you observe, this condition is exactly a converse statement of the condition we have seen for the mapping T is bounded. Okay, let us try to prove this result. In the first part, we will assume that m norm of x is less than or equals to norm of T of x for all x in n. And our job is to prove inverse exists and is continuous. Inverse exists and is continuous on its corresponding domain. But what we know, T inverse exists for any mapping T, its inverse exists if and only if the mapping is 1, 1 and onto. Okay, if the mapping is 1, 1 and onto. Therefore, let us try to check whether the mapping T is 1, 1 and onto or not. For that purpose, let me start with our 2 points in the domain x1 and x2, where the T images of the two elements are equal. That is, Tx1 is equal to Tx2. What we should prove? X1 is equals to x2. Let us start. Tx1 is equals to 2x2. Shifting Tx2 to the left, we will get Tx1 minus Tx2 is equals to 0. But we know T is linear. Therefore, Tx1 minus Tx2 can be written as Tx1 minus x2. Okay. But T of something is equal to 0. Knowing T is linear, that element must be 0. Okay. Because for the linear transformations, for the linear mappings, T of 0 is equals to 0. T is linear if and only if T of 0 is equals to 0. Therefore, x1 minus x2 is equals to 0, proving x1 is equals to 0. Hence, x1 is equal to x2. Hence, T is 1, 1 surely. Okay. T is 1, 1. Now, to check whether T is onto or not, the mapping T is defined from n to n dash. What we will do here, to take a mapping T is onto, we will restrict the codomain of a mapping T as range of the mapping T. Okay. Therefore, here we will define T as 1, 1 and define as onto on its range space. Okay. Therefore, one can surely say that T is 1, 1 and onto on T of n. Now, as T is 1, 1 and onto on T of n, surely T inverse is going to exist on T of n. Therefore, T inverse will be a mapping from T of n to T. T of n to T. Okay. Y is an element of T n if I consider. Then there exists X in n. If I take Y is in the domain space, then there exists X in n such that T inverse of Y is equal to X. Here I have written. Tx of Y is implies and implied by T inverse of X. T inverse of Y is equal to X. Okay. Let me repeat again. For any element for any vector Y in T of n, there exists X in n such that T inverse of Y is X. And if T inverse of Y is X, it implies and implied by T of X is equals to Y. Okay. Now let me put these values in the previous equations. Which equation? This equation. M norm of X is less than or equals to norm of T of X. Here we are going to substitute X is equal to T inverse Y, and here we will substitute Tx is equal to Y. Right. Let me do. Therefore, the equation 0.7 becomes M norm of T inverse of Y less than or equals to norm of Y. Shifting 1 by M to the right, it is norm T inverse Y is less than or equals to 1 upon M into norm of Y. From this inequality, we can say that T inverse is bounded. If T inverse is bounded, T inverse is linear also. Therefore, it implies that T inverse is continuous. Hence, T inverse bounded, it implies T inverse is continuous. Therefore, we have proved both the statement that T inverse exists and is continuous as well. Okay. Let us go for the reverse part of the proof. Here in the reverse part, we will assume that T inverse exists and continuous on the domain T of n. Then what we want to prove? We want to prove this inequality M norm of X is less than or equals to norm of T of X for all X in n. Therefore, let X be any arbitrary element in n. Since T inverse exists, there exists Y in T of n such that as we have discussed in the previous part of the proof, T inverse Y is equal to X implies and implied by T of X is equals to Y. T of X is equals to Y. Now again, since T inverse is continuous, it implies it is bounded. If it is bounded, there exists a positive constant K such that, what such that? Norm T inverse of Y, norm T inverse is less than or equals to, norm T inverse of Y it is, norm T inverse of Y less than or equals to K into norm of Y, but T inverse Y is X and Y is T of X. Therefore, I have just substituted value. Let me repeat. Here it is Y missing, it's a typing mistake. Norm T inverse Y less than or equals to K into norm of Y. Let me write T inverse Y as X and Y as T of X. That would give us norm of X is less than or equals to K into norm T of X. K is a number greater than 0. Let me shift on the left. Therefore, it is 1 upon k norm of x less than or equals to norm t of x. Let me write this positive constant 1 upon k as some m. Therefore, this is m norm of x is less than or equals to norm t of x. Hence, the proof completes. Okay. Therefore, the statement, if we observe T inverse exists and is continuous, that is bounded also if this inequality holds, and this inequality is exactly reverse type or exactly reverse of the inequality we are using for T is bounded. Okay, for T is bounded, we are using norm T of x is less than or equals to k into norm of x. For T inverse bounded, now we are using m norm of x is less than or equals to norm T of x, or norm T of x is greater equal by m into norm of x. Okay. I hope there is no difficulty in today's lecture. Here we will stop. If you have any difficulty, you can put me in the chat box or you can message me. Thank you.